Today, the news spreads quietly but firmly. Nnamdi Kanu is set to be transferred from Sokoto Prison to another facility. In the corridors of power and among ordinary people, reactions differ, some curious, some concerned, some simply reflective. This change is more than a movement of walls and gates. It reminds us that history is always in motion, shaped by decisions, debates, and the weight of consequence. For some, it symbolizes uncertainty. For others, it represents a new chapter, unknown, yet unfolding. As vehicles prepare and paperwork is signed, one thing remains clear. Stories like these do not exist in isolation. They ripple through conversations, through hopes, through questions about justice, identity, and the future. And so, as the prison doors open and close once more, the world watches quietly, waiting to see what this next chapter will become. Tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever wondered how a single name can carry the weight of millions of hopes and fears? Have you ever asked yourself how a prison wall can echo far beyond its concrete, reaching into homes, markets, classrooms, and street corners? And have you ever paused to think about how silence can sometimes be louder than any protest, louder than any chant, louder than any speech? If these questions make you stop, even for a moment, then stay with me, because this is not just a story about a man. It is not just a story about a prison. It is not just a story about a possible transfer from one place to another. It is a story about memory, identity, power, patience, and the long road of unfinished conversations. Today, the news does not arrive with sirens. It does not crash through doors. It does not shout from rooftops. It moves quietly, carried by whispers, phone screens, murmured discussions, and the uneasy pauses between sentences. Nnamdi Kanu is said to be set for a transfer from Sokoto Prison to another facility. Some people read it and scroll past. Others stop. Others reread it 3 times. Others forward it without adding a word. And some people just sit, staring at the screen, not knowing what to think. Because for many, his name is not just a name. It is a symbol. To some, it represents resistance. To others, controversy. To others, confusion. To others, pain. To others, hope. In markets across the Southeast, traders pause mid-conversation. Someone mentions it casually. Another person lowers their voice. Someone else shakes their head. A woman selling tomatoes mutters that nothing ever really changes. A young man replies that change does not always announce itself with noise. In a small living room, a father watches the evening news while his children play on the floor. He remembers stories from his own father, stories about war, stories about survival, stories about what it means to belong to a place that keeps being questioned. In a university hostel, students argue. Some speak passionately. Some are tired of politics. Some say it does not affect them. Others say it affects everything. And in a prison cell, far from all these conversations, time moves differently. People often think that prisons only hold bodies. They are wrong. Prisons hold memories. They hold expectations. They hold unanswered questions. They hold words that were never spoken and words that were spoken too loudly. A transfer, on paper, looks simple. Files are signed. Names are typed. Destinations are changed. Vehicles are arranged. But in reality, a transfer is never just movement. It is a message. Sometimes intentional, sometimes accidental, sometimes misunderstood. For some, it feels like displacement all over again. For others, it feels like a reset. For others, it feels like nothing at all. And yet, nothing ever truly feels like nothing, because history has taught people to read between lines, to look for meaning where none is officially stated, to listen not only to what is said, but to what is avoided. In the villages, elders remember how movements of leaders have always meant something. Sometimes it meant negotiation. Sometimes it meant silence. Sometimes it meant escalation. Sometimes it meant relief. Sometimes it meant the beginning of a longer wait. In the cities, life continues with its usual noise. Buses honk. Hawkers shout. Phones ring. Meetings happen. Deadlines approach. Bills must be paid. But under all of it, there is a hum of uncertainty, a low vibration of questions with no clear answers. Nnamdi Kanu's story has never existed in isolation. It has always been entangled with larger stories about belonging, about voice, about power, about who gets to define a future and who must wait for it. Some people say they are tired of hearing his name. Others say they are tired of pretending that his name does not matter. And between these two extremes, millions of people live their daily lives, navigating uncertainty like it is weather. Some days are calm, some days are stormy, some days feel like they might break. When news like this appears, it does not simply inform. It awakens memories. It reopens debates. It forces people to take positions, even when they do not want to. A man in a barbershop says it is all political drama. Another man replies that everything important is political, whether we like it or not. A third man says he just wants peace. Peace. Such a simple word, such a complicated reality. In many homes, people are not asking about prison transfers. They are asking how to survive the next week, how to pay rent, how to find work, how to keep their children safe. And yet, stories like this still matter because they shape the emotional climate of a society. They influence what people believe is possible. They determine how people interpret tomorrow. If a leader can be moved quietly, what else can be moved quietly? If a conversation can be postponed again, what other conversations are being postponed? The thing about moments like this is that they do not announce their importance right away. They arrive quietly, almost politely, and only later do people realize how much they have been carrying. When people hear that Nnamdi Kanu may be moved from one prison to another, some react immediately. Others pretend it does not matter. But deep down, most people feel something shift, even if they cannot explain it, because movement suggests change, and change, whether good or bad, always makes people uncomfortable. In many homes, the conversation does not start with his name. It starts with a sigh. Someone switches off the television. Someone checks their phone. Someone asks if anyone has heard the latest. Someone else says they are tired of hearing news that never seems to bring peace, but they keep listening anyway. In the eastern towns, where the name Biafra still carries history like a shadow, people do not talk about these things lightly. They speak with caution, with memory, with the weight of stories passed down. They remember what it means when voices are silenced. They remember what it means when movements are restricted. They remember what it feels like when hope is delayed. And they also remember how easily narratives can be rewritten. Some elders say they have seen this pattern before. They say leaders are moved, stories are reshaped, attention shifts, and people are expected to forget. But forgetting is not easy when wounds are still open. In the North, in the West, in the South, people view the story differently. Some see it as just another political development. Some see it as a necessary process. Some see it as noise. Some see it as something that does not concern them. But even those who claim not to care still talk about it, because certain stories refuse to stay quiet. Social media fills with opinions. Some are thoughtful. Some are angry. Some are tired. Some are hopeful. Some are cruel. Some are confused. A young woman types a long post and deletes it. She does not know how to express what she feels. She is not sure if it is sadness or frustration or fear or exhaustion. Maybe it is all of them. A man scrolling through his phone stops at a comment that reminds him of his childhood. He remembers sitting on the floor while adults whispered about things they thought he could not hear. He remembers feeling that something was wrong, even when nobody explained it. What makes this moment heavy is not just the man at the center of it. It is what he represents to different people. A symbol can carry more weight than a human being. A symbol can be loved, hated, misunderstood, defended, attacked, and reinterpreted endlessly. Somewhere, a young boy hears his mother mention the name. He asks who that is. She hesitates. How do you explain decades of pain in a few words? How do you explain identity, struggle, and politics to a child who just wants to play? She says, because he reminds people of things they have not finished talking about. That night, the boy dreams of long roads and locked gates and voices calling out from behind walls. He does not understand the dream, but he feels its weight. This is how stories travel. Not only through news, but through emotions, through half explanations, through silence. In a crowded bus, two strangers talk about it. One says it does not matter where he is kept. The other says it matters a lot. They argue for a few minutes. Then the bus reaches their stop. They step out. The conversation ends. In offices, people pretend to focus on work, but their minds wander. They think about fairness. They think about freedom. They think about what they would do if they were in that position. They think about what they would do if they had power.